I was a little scared
Were ya?
walking into this game. Because I didn't want to embarrass not only us as a university, but myself. So it was a big game, and I was definitely afraid.
He once stood atop the college football world, arms raised beneath the blazing lights of the Rose Bowl, as 94,000 fans screamed his name. Vince Young didn't just win the 2006 national championship. He rewrote what greatness could look like. In one night, he beat USC, shocked the nation, and became a living legend in Texas. A few years later, he quietly applied for an entry-level job at the University of Texas. He didn't get it. He'd made over $30 million by the time he turned 27. But by 31, he'd filed for bankruptcy. This was the same man who once drew comparisons to Steve Young, who graced the cover of Madden, who was drafted 3rd overall to save a franchise. He was supposed to be the future. Instead, he became a cautionary tale. There was no scandalous arrest, no dramatic injury, just a slow unraveling, missed calls, burned bridges, headlines that got quieter. So how does someone go from being the most electrifying college player in a generation to not even being called back for a job at his old school? Not in the abstract, not just what went wrong, but how does a system, the fans, the media, the league, help build a myth, then vanish when the myth starts to crack? To understand that, we need to look at more than Vince Young, the quarterback. We need to look at what football gave him and what it never taught him. Because this isn't just a story about a game lost. It's about how glory can become a weight, and what happens when no one teaches you how to carry it. Before Vince Young ever threw a touchdown in the NFL, he was already a Texas legend. He was born in Houston, raised in the tough streets of the Hiram Clark neighborhood. His father was in and out of prison. His mother worked multiple jobs to keep food on the table. Coaches described him as quiet, even shy. But once he had the ball, he moved like he was born with something to prove. By high school, he was unstoppable. As a quarterback at Madison High, he racked up over 12,000 yards of total offense. His style wasn't textbook. It was playground chaos refined into poetry. Recruiters lined up from coast to coast. But in Texas, there was only one real destination: burnt orange. When Vince signed with the University of Texas, the pressure wasn't subtle. He wasn't just playing for a team, he was playing for a state, and he delivered. In 2005, Texas went undefeated, setting the stage for one of the greatest championship games in college football history. On January 4th, 2006, under the lights of the Rose Bowl, Vince Young put on a performance that felt almost mythic. Down by 5. 19 seconds left. 4th and 5. He takes the snap, sees nothing, and runs, weaving through defenders like ghosts. Touchdown, game over. Texas 41, USC 38. Broadcasters called it the greatest college football game ever played. Vince Young wasn't just a player anymore. He was folklore. He finished the season with 3,000 passing yards, 1,000 rushing, and a legacy sealed in stone. After the game, Mac Brown said, "That's the best performance I've ever seen by one player." ESPN called it the best performance in BCS history. Within weeks, he declared for the NFL draft, and the machine kicked in. Nike rolled out ads, magazines ran covers. He was on The Tonight Show. The NFL draft became a coronation. When the Tennessee Titans picked him at number 3 overall, it wasn't just about talent, it was about spectacle. Their previous quarterbacks had fizzled. This was the savior. But what nobody said, what no one ever says, is that the NFL is a different country. In college, you're a king. In the NFL, you're an employee. In college, the system protects you. In the NFL, it tests you. And Vince, for all his brilliance, wasn't ready for the test. He had the arm, he had the legs, he had the resume, but what he didn't have, and no one gave him, was preparation for the pressure. No mentor, no money management, no guidance for the emotional weight of carrying an entire city's expectations. The same system that wrapped him in celebration at Texas handed him off to the pros and stepped aside. Vince's rookie season was a flash of promise. He led 6 comeback wins, was named Offensive Rookie of the Year, made the Pro Bowl. But even then, cracks were forming. Coaches questioned his study habits. Analysts called his throwing motion awkward. Privately, some teammates wondered if he truly loved the game, or just what the game gave him. Still, the myth held, for now. Because back in Texas, they didn't see the doubt. They still saw the kid who brought home a title. And in Tennessee, they still believed. But belief is fragile. And the next season, the weight would begin to crush him. Vince Young's rookie season gave the illusion of stability. He made the Pro Bowl. He led the Titans to multiple comeback wins. To the public, the myth was alive. The Golden Boy from Texas was now the hero in Tennessee. But behind closed doors, something wasn't right. Coaches noticed it in the film room, or rather, the lack of one. Vince wasn't studying tape the way franchise quarterbacks were expected to. His footwork remained inconsistent. His decision-making under pressure wavered. He was relying on instinct, the same instinct that dazzled in college. But at the NFL level, instinct without structure becomes a liability. By year 2, it became clear. The league was adjusting to him, and Vince wasn't adjusting back. In 2008, it all cracked. After a poor game in the season opener, boos rained down from the home crowd. Vince threw his helmet, walked off, didn't return to the field. Then, he disappeared. Titans staff couldn't reach him. Reports emerged that his family was concerned for his mental health, fearing he might hurt himself. Jeff Fisher, then head coach, called the police. Vince was found later that night, safe, but shaken. The team downplayed it. The league moved on. But for Vince, the spiral had started. He lost the starting job, gained it back, lost it again. The headlines were no longer about wins or stats. They were about sideline arguments, missed meetings, rumors of emotional instability. And the relationship with Jeff Fisher? Toxic. Fisher was old school, demanding, unforgiving. Vince needed support. What he got was skepticism. During a 2010 game against the Redskins, Vince injured his thumb. He wanted to go back in. Fisher said no. In the locker room afterward, Vince reportedly threw his shoulder pads and stormed out. Fisher told the media Vince had quit on the team. It was the final fracture. The Titans released him at the end of the season. No farewell press conference, no video tribute, just a headline, Vince Young out in Tennessee. He was 27. What followed was a carousel of tryouts and short-term contracts. The Eagles picked him up as a backup. He called them a dream team. The press laughed. He barely played. The Bills gave him a shot, then cut him before the season started. The Packers? Same story. The Browns? Didn't even last through training camp. The myth was no longer just fading. It was a joke. Vince Young, the comeback punchline. But this wasn't about football anymore. It hadn't been for a long time. In 2014, he filed for Chapter 11 bankruptcy. Despite earning over $30 million in career earnings, court documents revealed massive debt, unpaid loans, and spending habits that didn't just outpace income, they ignored reality. He'd spent thousands at Cheesecake Factory, hundreds of thousands on travel. He admitted to lending money to people he barely knew. The financial advisors he trusted were under investigation. But more than the money, it was the silence that hurt. No team called. No support system stepped in. At just 30, he was done. In a later interview, he said, "I was raised to be a football player, but no one raised me to be a man." That quote didn't trend. It didn't go viral. It wasn't funny enough for Twitter. It was just true. Vince had gone from icon to exile, and now the system that built him had no use for him. He wasn't marketable. He wasn't headline-worthy. He was a fading name in a long list of what-ifs. But here's the thing no one likes to say. Vince Young didn't fail football. Football failed him. It sold him glory, but gave him no tools to manage the cost. No mental health support. No transition coaching. No one to say, "Hey, the lights will go out one day. Here's how to survive when they do." And when the lights did go out, Vince was left in the dark. In the years after football left him behind, Vince Young tried to rebuild. He enrolled in classes at the University of Texas. He made public appearances, gave interviews, signed autographs. On the surface, it looked like redemption, a former star finding his way home. But underneath, the scars lingered. He applied for a job at Texas, the same school where he once delivered a national championship. It was an entry-level role in the athletic department. He didn't get it. This was a man who brought tens of millions in revenue to the university, now being told he wasn't qualified to hand out parking passes. It wasn't malice, it was apathy. And apathy hurts more than hate. Vince started speaking publicly about mental health, about depression, about isolation. In one interview, he admitted he had no idea how to live without football. "I felt like I died when the game left," he said. "Everything I ever knew, gone." He'd spent his whole life being the guy. From Hiram Clark to the Rose Bowl to the NFL draft. No one ever prepared him to be just Vince. The consequences weren't just emotional, they were practical. In 2017, he tried one last comeback, signing with the CFL's Saskatchewan Roughriders, but a torn hamstring ended it before it began. In the same year, he was arrested for DUI, his second. He pled no contest, paid the fine, and disappeared from headlines once again. But there's a haunting irony in Vince's story. When he needed the game most, the game was already gone. The NFL has programs, rookie symposiums, financial literacy classes, mental health hotlines, but they're optional, short-term, often too little, too late. Players like Vince weren't just underprepared, they were unprepared. No one told them how to manage sudden wealth. No one warned them how quickly fame could vanish. No one said, "You'll be 30 with bad knees, no career plan, and a public that's already moved on." Because that part of the game, it doesn't sell jerseys. Eventually, Vince found small footing. In 2019, he was hired by the University of Texas as a development officer, a gesture that felt more symbolic than strategic. He made appearances, took photos, shook hands, but even that ended in silence. The school let him go quietly after performance issues, according to reports. There was no statement, no tribute, no farewell, just another closed door. And maybe that's what hurts most about stories like Vince Young's. They don't end in tragedy. They end in nothing. A slow fade, a quiet exit, a legacy no one wants to talk about. Not because it's ugly, but because it's inconvenient. Vince once stood on top of the world. He gave millions of people one of the greatest nights in sports history. But when he fell, when the highlight reel stopped, there was no system to catch him. Because football, for all its glory, is not built to look back. Once the cheering fades, so does the memory. And the man left behind has to build a new identity from the rebel of the one we cheered for. Vince Young's story isn't rare. It's just honest, and that's what makes it haunting. Because the NFL doesn't just break bodies, it breaks identities. Every year, new rookies walk into the league with talent, confidence, and dreams. But most walk in with no tools. No blueprint for the moment when the crowds quiet down and the endorsements dry up. The culture says, tough it out. Be a man. Play through pain. But what if the pain isn't in the knee? It's in the mind. What if the fracture is invisible? There's a reason so many ex-players face bankruptcy, depression, addiction, or worse. It's not bad luck, it's design. The average NFL career lasts less than 3 years, but the contracts, often unguaranteed. The injuries, very real. The trauma, cumulative. And the moment you stop producing, the moment you're no longer useful to the machine, you re-out. That's not cynicism. That's reality. Consider the layers Vince Young was never trained to navigate. Sudden wealth. He went from modest beginnings to multi-million-dollar contracts overnight. No one taught him about taxes, about creditors, about saying no. Sudden fame. One Rose Bowl win made him a household name. But fame isn't currency you can spend forever. It demands maintenance. And that pressure, unacknowledged, corrodes fast. Mental health stigma. When Vince showed signs of emotional distress, the public mocked. Teammates distanced. The league shrugged. In the NFL, fragility is taboo until it turns fatal. Now imagine this repeating, over and over. Different names, same fall. Terrell Owens, a Hall of Famer, declared bankruptcy. Junior Seau, Super Bowl veteran, took his own life, later diagnosed with severe CTE, and countless others spiral in silence, far from the cameras. This isn't about one bad decision. It's about a culture that rewards performance but punishes vulnerability. Let's break it down. 1. Culture of silence. From Pop Warner to the pros, players are taught that pain is weakness, that seeking help is soft, so they numb it, hide it, until it explodes. 2. Absence of structured support. Most NFL teams invest millions in strength coaches, film rooms, scouting departments, but mental health infrastructure? Often underfunded, underprioritized, or treated as PR. 3. Lack of post-career prep. There's no playbook for life after football, no real transition curriculum, no stable safety net. Players go from 60,000 fans screaming their name to phones that don't ring. And for many, the silence is louder than the roar ever was. The NFL has made progress. Some teams now provide therapy, education, even financial training. But these are scattered, optional, and usually come after the damage is done. Vince Young didn't need a handout. He needed a system that saw him as a person, not just a stat line. He needed a mentor, a financial advisor he could trust, a coach who understood that broken confidence is harder to rehab than a broken ankle, a league that followed through, not just on draft night but when the cameras were gone, and maybe that's the real cost of glory. Not the hits, not the losses, but the aftermath. Because long after the games are over, the lights dim, and the crowds forget. The men who once gave everything are left trying to figure out who they are when the helmet comes off. And there's no louder sound than the silence that follows. Vince Young didn't vanish in a crash. He faded. One tryout, one silence, one headline at a time. Not with scandal, not with violence, but with a system quietly closing its doors. He once lit up the Rose Bowl with the greatest performance college football had ever seen. He once had GMs calling him the next Steve McNair. He once made grown men cry tears of joy in Texas. Now, he's a footnote. Not because he lacked talent, but because the game he gave everything to never taught him how to live without it. And if that doesn't scare you, maybe it should. Because Vince Young didn't fail alone. He failed the way too many players do. Unprepared, unsupported, unspoken for. And if you thought this story was hard to watch, wait until you hear about the quarterback who walked away from the NFL undefeated. and still ended up broke, addicted, and almost dead.